This was kind of a surprise. Trump campaign sues New York Times over 2019 opinion article. The lawsuit concerns an essay published a year ago headlined, "The Real Trump-Russia Quid Pro Quo." So Trump's reelection campaign sued the Times for libel. According to the New York Times, here I figure we go right to the source, alleging that an op-ed published by the newspaper falsely asserted a quid pro quo between Russian officials and Mr. Trump's 2016 campaign. Mr. Trump often threatens to sue media organizations but rarely follows through. The lawsuit filed in New York State Court of Manhattan is the first time his political operation has taken legal action against an American news outlet since he took office. This is about an essay in which Max Frankel wrote about communications between Trump's inner circle and Russian emissaries in the lead up to the 2016 election. He concluded that, quote, rather than any detailed electoral collusion, the Trump campaign and Russian officials had an overarching deal, the quid of help in the campaign against Hillary Clinton for the quo of a new Russian foreign policy. I mean, that was a monumentally stupid op-ed in the New York Times, but that's not anything new or particularly different for the New York Times. In fact, that's not even the least bit surprising. So we all then are in the position where we ask ourselves, okay, what is the administration hoping to accomplish here? I will tell you, because I am honest about these things with you, this will not last long. This legal effort to go after the Times is going to very quickly, very rapidly fall apart and get shot down by the courts because you're not able to, under the heading, especially of an opinion paper and dealing with a public figure like the president, you're never going to win a libel judgment in that case. I think the administration is just doing this because it's a way of fighting back against the left-wing desire to continue to publish things that are insane and defamatory by raising this again. Now we get to look back at the kind of things, the kind of crazy stuff that libs publish on a regular basis. And this is where I tell you, prepare for the most insane anti-Trump stuff of all time between now and the election. Prepare for the most established, most elite media brands in the country to do anything and everything that they can in order to hurt Donald Trump's chances for re-election, no matter how silly, no matter how foolish. There's been no accountability whatsoever for all the Russia collusion stories that were written. In fact, forget about accountability. They gave themselves awards for this. They think they should be greeted as champions of journalism for this 3-year-long, now 4th year of a scam that was cooked up with the media in the very beginning of it, working hand in glove with Christopher Steele and the dossier and some deep state elements in the government. They view this as something to be celebrated, something to be happy about. So keep that in mind, that background in mind, when we now look at what the likelihood is of the media getting even more insane between now and Election Day. It's highly predictable, but what we've noticed is that the people that are able to predict this, the media won't listen to them, doesn't care, because they're activists who view themselves as having a job to do, not to inform the public and to present facts and without fear or favor. Their job is to get the public to certain places of perception and certain political outcomes. They want a majority of the American public to believe X. They want a majority of the American people to vote for Y, whether it's an individual or an issue. So there will not be any change in this. There will not be any shift in the media back toward a more, relatively speaking, neutral position. Watch as they get crazier than they've ever been before. I mean, this is just going to be completely bonkers. And then people also ask me, so there's not going to be any media accountability at all. Will there be any accountability between now and Election Day on the deep state? According to Fox News today, Representative Doug, by the way, I couldn't go to CPAC this year because I have too many shows that I have to do out of New York, and I got to go do the Bill Maher show on Friday. I'm going to need you pulling for me, watching at home if you can. Get somebody else's HBO Go password if you don't have it. It's 10 Eastern is when the Bill Maher show airs. So do watch, do check it out, please. So it's because they're going to be, man, that audience is going to be coming for me this time. If you had a distillation of liberal insanity and then was able to like inject it directly into the veins of human beings, that Bill Maher audience is, I mean, they're as crazy as any libs you'll ever find anywhere. I mean, they are, you cannot reason with them. You know, you cannot change their minds, and they just show up to cheer for the most utterly insane left-wing stuff. I mean, like AOC today saying that she tweeted out today that Mike Pence literally doesn't believe in science. That's it's a stupid thing to say. It's not that I disagree, that it's a dumb thing to say. That is the kind of analysis and public statement that the Bill Maher audience would be, they'll be cheering and they'll think it's all amazing. But I couldn't go to CPAC this year, so if anyone's looking for me down there, I'm sorry I'm not there. I'm hoping I can get there next year. But between my 2 radio shows, obligations to do TV, Bill Maher stuff, keeping producer Mark happy, it's a very full-time job, and I got a lot of things that I got going on. I love CPAC, though. I mean, I remember the first time I ever went, I was actually a young CIA officer, and I went with a couple of buddies of mine in D.C., and it was the year, it must have been 2009, I guess, and it was the year that Rush gave the keynote, and in the keynote he said it was 2008, no, 2009, whatever the year. It was when Rush gave the keynote about how he was hoping Obama's agenda failed, and that was a lot of fun. I mean, there's so few places in the country, especially for somebody who lives in the belly of the liberal beast here and in such a blue stronghold. There are so few places where you can go and have the expectation that you'll be surrounded with people who are like-minded about so many things. And it is a big advantage, I will say, that I think that people who are on the left do take for granted. If you're a huge lib and you live in San Francisco, you live in Los Angeles, you live in New York City, you just assume that everyone you talk to, everyone you're around is very aligned with you on most major things, if they care about politics at all. And I was in the subway recently here in New York City, and some guy was having a very loud conversation with another guy about how much, how Trump is horrible and like how racism needs to be a bigger conversation in this country. And it was the kind of conversation where he knew that people were hearing him and he was putting on a bit of a show for everybody else. But looking around that subway car, just based on party affiliation, the chance of it being 95% liberals is, very, very high. Pretty much everybody in there is going to agree with them. So when you go to CPAC and you're a conservative, you're in the D.C. area and you're surrounded with thousands of people that agree with you, which is really nice. A lot of you probably live in places where you have at least a high probability that you're not completely outnumbered and alone in what you're thinking. Anyway, so I won't be at CPAC, which is kind of a bummer. And I was going to be on the main stage and having a conversation with Representative Jim Jordan, I think, about Russiagate, but I was not able to make it this year, and I really appreciate the folks at CPAC inviting. I was invited. They were putting me on the main stage. I love Matt Schlapp and Ian Walter and the whole CPAC gang, and they're very good to me. I could not make the scheduling work this year because I know some people have already been emailing and texting me and asking, are you at CPAC? Are you at CPAC? I'm going to be at Bill Maher show. Instead of going to this is kind of funny. Instead of going to a place where I get to be surrounded with people that I'm excited to talk to and that want to hear what I have to say and that are happy to see me, I'm basically flying 6 hours to get booed by a live audience and get mean emails and tweets from like millions of people watching. So that's why, team, I need your nice and supportive tweets as a way of counterbalancing what I'm going to be put through on Friday. But look, it's great. I so rarely get the chance to really argue with any libs. I so rarely am able to debate anybody. Nobody, CNN and MSNBC have given up on debate. They don't even have people on who can have a real conversation about any of this anymore. They don't do it, which is a shame. I got involved in as a consumer in watching politics and paying attention to politics at a time when you'd have real, there were nights, you turn on different channels, different cable news channels, you'd have fiery debates between people who were competent at making their argument. That was a real thing that existed. Now, when you see a conservative on CNN or MSNBC, it's almost always one of these like never Trump who are just they're frauds, they're crazy. I've had enough. Like I don't even They're a waste of everybody's time. Most of them are now saying they'll vote for Bernie Sanders. So they never really had any principles. They were just bent out of shape because they felt like they had lost, they'd lost their place that they had earned in the conservative movement, and that Trump people had come in and swept them aside. And it was just all about ego and power and money for them. It had nothing to do with anything else. There are some exceptions to this. Very, very few now, though. We're seeing people that are saying that. I mean, if you're saying you're going to vote for Bernie Sanders over Donald Trump, and it's because you're a conservative, you're either crazy or you're a fraud, or maybe both. But when you see people who are going to give the pro-Trump point of view at CNN and MSNBC in general, and I don't mean to be mean to anybody who's over there who does this, but some of them are friends of mine, they're not people that are very effective. You do not see the most effective voices for the administration given any airtime over there because it's so, one, they have to protect their very pampered anchors and pundits at those channels from having anybody who really will challenge them. And this is, by the way, this is not, Fox still has real debates. Sean had de Blasio on his show last night. Respectful, but real exchange. Fox still has real people on from the left. Fox still invites on Tulsi Gabbard and invites on, any Democrat. They'll invite these people on and they'll give them a fair hearing if it's a neutral news show, or they'll have a pundit who will let them speak and they'll go back and forth and they'll really do it. CNN, MSNBC, the snowflake libs can't even handle it anymore. And that's kind of a shame. So I'm excited about that part of doing the Bill Maher show because it is an opportunity to have the kind of exchange, the kind of conversation with libs. I mean, look, they're going to shout me down and they're going to say, terrible things, and it's fine. And, I'm used to that. And, the good news is that doesn't bother me at all. But, there's so few venues where you really get this. And the last couple of weeks on that show, I don't even think they had a conservative. So that audience is not ready for what's coming their way with the Buckster in a little over 24 hours. So I'm excited about that. All right, sorry. So I was talking before about accountability. There's going to be no media accountability, and I often get asked about deep state accountability, and there was this comment down at CPAC that's getting some attention now. Fox News is carrying it, and here's what it is. That Representative Doug Collins, I like Representative Collins, suggested Thursday at CPAC that U.S. Attorney John Durham's investigation into the origins of the Russia probe will lead to criminal charges. Quote, this is not going to be a Mueller report. There won't be a report. When he's ready to charge people, he'll charge people, and that's when we'll know. I hope that Representative Collins is right and he still has a clearance and he still is in the loop. I think he is incorrect. I do not think there will be any criminal charges certainly against anybody who was a government figure from the Durham probe. I just think that they're gonna prove incompetence that has to be malice, but Democrats will always hide behind mountains of incompetence so that they don't have to pay the price for what they've done. They'll just say, "Oh, we were too dumb to know that Christopher Steele's sources were all bull, and that we were abusing the FISA process. Sorry, we're just too dumb." And it's very hard to hold people in a bureaucracy accountable when their fallback position is that they just weren't competent. They weren't competent at what they were. Sorry. Apparently it's Buck's time to take some medicine or something. Didn't mean for that to happen. Producer Mark is shaking his head. I got a couple of clocks in here that I got to keep an eye on sometimes. So either don't hold your breath on this. We'll see. Representative Collins could be right. But one of my Buck predictions, I would not expect there to be any criminal charges coming out of the Durham probe. Certainly any criminal charges of anybody you've ever heard of before, and that will make any difference in the fight against the deep state. I do think the Durham probe will expose that there was, to anyone who is looking at it honestly, there was a clear and concerted effort to fabricate a narrative meant to bring down the Trump campaign first and then to bring down the Trump administration beyond that. That's what will, and then it'll just be what we already know, but we'll have more proof of it. So that's what I think will happen as a result of Durham. I could be wrong. I think it's unlikely that I am wrong. We'll have to see. Maybe we can mark down this prediction. Some of my other predictions lately have been pretty on the money. Biden's got to drop out because that's one that I've been hammering forever. That's why I'm like, when's Biden going to drop out? Then I get to do a little victory dance here in the hut because when everybody was saying Biden was the nominee, Biden's going to win, Biden's going to be the guy, I was like, nope, not going to be Joe Biden. No way it's going to be Joe Biden. He's not up for it. He just doesn't have what you need to have to make this thing happen. He might think so. Because maybe he'll just yell at everybody until they vote for him. Maybe he's just going to be a yeller. He's going to yell and yell and yell. I don't think so. Bloomberg has to be smart because what he's done with. I mean, the company that he built and everything. It's impressive. We can't take that. The guy, he's impressive in that regard in building a company and running a business. So, given that he's smart, I'm just surprised. Well, I shouldn't. I mean, I guess we can break down why it is. But here's what he says, for example, about Xi Jinping. Play clip A, producer Mark.
It's a question of what you did. What is a dictator? They don't have democracy in the sense that they have general elections. That is true. They do have a system where a small group of people appoint the head, and they churn over periodically. If you go back and look at the last 2 or 3 decades, there have been a number of people that have had the same position that Xi Jinping has. I think the question is, if your definition is a democracy where people vote and pick their leaders, and that is not what China's about, and they don't seem to want it. They like their system, and I think they're wrong. I think they'd be better off opening things up, having freedom of the press, which they don't have, having lots of different cultures come in. That's the great strength of America. They don't seem to think that. And I think we should work as hard as we can to change that. But you're not going to go to war and try to force them. It is the second biggest economic power, and we should get used to the fact that China is going to keep growing and become stronger, and we have to figure out ways to work with them while protecting our industries and protecting our country militarily.
I think it's fair to say that Bloomberg has a soft spot for Chinese dictatorship. He views this, and this is because I think Bloomberg comes from the statist point of view. He comes from the statist point of view and is somebody who views himself as able to implement. So Bloomberg is the guy. Bernie Sanders is just like crazy radical revolution and like let the chips fall where they may. And, I don't know what I'm doing, but like let me do it anyway. That's kind of the Bernie pitch. Bloomberg's pitch is, no, I'll be an effective that's a classic progressive attitude. I'll be the effective administrator. Just give me the power to do what I think I need to do. And I think that's why he has this fondness for China. And then also he speaks a little bit about undocumented immigrants. Play clip 10, producer Mark, would you?
Stop this craziness with 11 million people who are living in the shadow. You've got to give them a clear path to citizenship. You've got to staple a green card on every degree when they get out of college, particularly if they're studying STEM. I mean, a whole bunch of these things, and we need more immigrants.
More illegal immigrants he's talking about there. Let's break down why that's a problem. So Bloomberg's telling us that illegal immigrants are vital to the economy. He would have to know that we already have a situation that's playing out in the employment market right now where scarcity of workers in certain sectors is resulting in rising wages. Bloomberg understands supply and demand. He understands it very, very well. So he must have just been ideologically conditioned to think that we will be a wealthier country by rewarding lawlessness and lawbreaking and permanently making part of the American family people that not only broke the law, but in large numbers came here without any particular skills, without English language proficiency, and not going through the legal immigration system. And then I would also want to ask him, why do we even have a legal immigration system at all if this is where we're going to be? If we're just going to say, okay, fine, everybody who came here in this way gets to stay. Why? Mike he's smart. I mean, Mayor Pete is smart. I'm not like libs who say that every Republican is dumb. That's a silly thing to say. Bloomberg is a very intelligent guy. Mayor Pete's a very intelligent guy. He's a little robotic, but very intelligent. That's why when I say Biden is dumb, I'm not just saying that to be disparaging and flippant. Like, I actually think Biden's not very smart. That's a different thing. I just think he's not a very bright guy. I think he's a very kind of mediocre to subpar mind. I don't think Bernie Sanders is very bright either, by the way. I'm just putting that out. Elizabeth Warren is smart, but, she's played the system a lot to make people think she's smarter than she is. We all know some of the ways that happened. So I find Bloomberg here, some of his positions, a little surprising, other than it's just the result of liberal conditioning of the brain. Liberalism is a virus of the mind. And then there's this Bloomberg comment, which is also just wrong and dumb. So my opinion of Bloomberg is going down. I guess I didn't pay much attention to him when he was mayor of New York. Now my opinion of him keeps dropping because New York did well while he was mayor, but maybe it didn't really have that much to do with him. Play clip 9.
Out of the 40,000 people that are going to get killed, a majority of them are suicides. And one thing about suicides, the psychiatrist will say, generally, if you want to commit suicide and you can't do it right away, you forget about it.
I think that's very, very dubious. He's talking about gun violence there. They talk about suicides as part of gun violence when really that's conflating very different issues, right? Someone walking to the store getting hit with a stray bullet because there's a drive-by shooting, that's a very different public and social problem than somebody who is deeply depressed and makes the very unfortunate and never the right choice of taking one's own life. So, Bloomberg, he's very anti-guns, though, as you know, and so whatever he can use to go after the Second Amendment, he'll do. Anyway, just noting, Bloomberg he's slipping even. I try to rank, honestly, the Democrats in my mind and, where they are on all this and what I think of them, and Bloomberg is slipping a little bit for me. He's, I've been thinking he would be the least bad option of the Democrats that are still in this thing. Probably still true, but, I don't know. Klobuchar doesn't seem that crazy.
It's time for roll call.
Team, let me just say before we get into roll call that we did a little bit of number crunching here, and one of the problems that we used to have to try to overcome here on the show was that because of the podcast going up after the syndicated radio show, we had a difficult, it is difficult for people to listen unless they were going to listen, a day or two later or binge listen. Now we get the podcast up every day by about 3-ish. And since we've been doing that, we already had a robust, a large podcast audience across the country. But our numbers month to month from October, since we started putting the podcast early, are up almost 40-50%. And that's one, because it's easier to listen to the show now when you want to in drive time. And also because all of you are telling people, you are passing the buck and telling people about the show. So, I know I keep harping on this, but it's so, so important to us. It helps with everything we're doing here. And, people that have never listened before, just try to get them to listen once. If they're conservative, if they're into politics, because we're getting people now that are really on Team Buck and really part of the Freedom Hut in a way that is just, it's inspiring for Mark and me to keep, we're just grinding, man. We're grinding out in here all the time. Yes, sir.
Yeah, Buck just said he was going to give me a 40 to 50% raise.
We haven't talked about that yet.
Oh, we haven't?
Keep up the good work.
All right.
Keep up the good work, all right? We'll see what happens. Chance, I was listening to your podcast. You were talking about the old X-Men cartoon on Disney. I used to watch that cartoon. It was really good. I also saw Gargoyles, Darkwing Duck, Chippendale Rescue Rangers, original DuckTales, and the old Mighty Ducks cartoon on there as well. All great cartoon series. Shields high. I used to watch Gargoyles, actually. I remember that show. I thought that was pretty good when I was a kid. Old X-Men for sure. DuckTales, original DuckTales, all about it. Never seen the Mighty Ducks cartoon. That would be producer Mark's milieu.
Yeah, I saw it. I didn't like it as much as the movies.
I feel like, how could that be that good?
I was more of a Nickelodeon kid anyway.
Is it ducks, by the way, playing hockey?
Yeah, like they're in the little masks.
Right.
I think
that doesn't sound... Because the movie's about
actual ducks.
The movie's about human beings.
Yes, but the cartoon came first.
Wait, the cartoon came before the movie?
Yeah.
I thought the Mighty Ducks... Wait, so it's not like DuckTales where they're ducks pretending to be humans.
No.
Are these anthropomorphic
I think from
hockey
what I
ducks?
remember, maybe they had masks on and they weren't actually ducks. I don't remember.
You really don't remember this cartoon at all,
No,
do you?
I didn't like it that much.
Yeah, well, fair enough. For the time you were watching it, all-time favorite cartoon?
Oh, Rugrats.
Rugrats?
Yeah.
Huh. Interesting.
Love that.
I loved the old G.I. Joe cartoon back in
Really?
the day. I thought, which
That
now
actually-
you couldn't even
that
do.
makes sense.
Yeah, but now there's like guns, and there's guns in it, and they love America, and there's like hot lady G.I. Joes, and like all unacceptable now. Now it has to be like Teletubbies, gender neutral.
What do cartoons
people
even
just
look
like,
like today?
people just like rubbing the tops of each other's heads and like making cookies. You can't do no more America, no more ninja movies in America. Which how did that even happen? But it did. American Ninja. It's all gone now.
Now there's just American Ninja Warrior.
It's not
the same. It's
Yeah.
real people trying
nobody's
to be
nobody's
ninjas.
getting cut in half with a katana sword in that one.
Yeah. Well, that would be illegal.
That would be a problem.
And terrible to watch, probably.
That's probably true. Peter writes, "Hey, Buck, love the show. You had a listener who was asking for a book on American history. I've been reading Land of Hope, An Invitation to the Great American Story by Wilfred McClay. It was written as a counter to Howard Zinn type of crap that's currently used in public schools. I've not finished it yet, but I've seen enough to feel comfortable recommending it. Hat tip to producer Mark, and of course, shields high." All right, Peter, I've never heard of this. An Invitation to the Great American Story, Land of Hope. Sounds cool. So, yeah. Thank you so much. Buck. Producer Mark is right. You need to watch the Marvel movies in the right order. I can provide a list if you're genuinely interested. However, you are right in that Avengers Endgame is not a great movie. Compared to Infinity War, the plot is unnecessarily convoluted and it breaks continuity and consistency of the other films. What is so special about it is that it's the culmination of 10 years and 20 films worth of interconnected plots and storylines, that all of these various cinematic artists work more or less seamlessly to craft a larger narrative tapestry, with each individual film acting like a musical theme within an opera. Whoa. JJ is eloquent. True, there are better pieces than others. Some are better executed or more memorable, but they all connect to a greater whole. Anyway, hope you give them a chance in order now that you have Disney+. Shields high. P.S. In regards to the Batman movies, you said a while back we need an American Batman again. American actors lost their Batman privileges when Clooney was cast, regained them after Bale bowed out, and then had their Batman cards revoked thanks to Ben Affleck. Here's hoping Pattinson does at least okay, so they keep making Batman films and we can reclaim the cape and cowl. Yeah, I can't disagree with them on the Batmans. I mean, the Affleck Batman was like a crime against humanity.
Oh, yeah.
Like
Especially after Christian
there should be
Bale's
UN
Batman.
resolutions passed. Like the Geneva Convention should ban Ben Affleck being Batman ever again.
100%.
Yeah.
Agree with you.
It's really weak sauce, weak stuff from him. The worst of all time, though, was the Clooney. The Clooney Batman.
I don't even remember.
I think
watching
Schumacher
those.
was the
Those
director of
episodes
that
so
one, and it had Christopher. What was that guy's name? He's kind of like a '90s heartthrob guy, and he played like I can't remember his name, and Chris something or other, but he was like the Robin, and it was just terrible. And they had Alicia Silverstone playing Batgirl.
It's going to take a lot to beat Christian Bale in the Dark Knight series.
He's very good.
Yeah.
He's very good. Tim, I've never called in on your show, and I don't have Facebook, but I've been watching and listening to you since Glenn Beck first introduced you in his New York studios. I'm an old retired sergeant cop here in California, and I've read every book you've recommended, plus many others as well. To the lady teacher in Albania, very different from Alabama. To the lady teacher in Albania, I'd recommend A Patriot's History of the United States by Larry Schweikert as an overview without a left-leaning point of view. Keep up the good work, Buck. I've enjoyed watching every success you've achieved. God bless you and Mark and our great nation. See, he blessed you too, Mark. So, see, the world is full of nice people.
Shalom.
Yeah, exactly. Brad, by the way, when am I going to get like some, when is Mrs. Mark going to send in some delicious, traditional kosher treats or something for us?
You think
know what
she
I mean?
just cooks random kosher treats?
Like when am I going to?
She's not an older
Where
Jewish
am
mother
I?
yet.
I would like some latkes, please.
Yeah, she's not an old Jewish mother yet.
Yeah, I understand this,
You have
but
to have
she's
kids.
got to be working on the skill set a little bit.
Maybe my mother-in-law.
The latkes are amazing.
She does make great latkes.
That's the best.
Yeah.
I will pound
Or-
latkes until the belly is full.
And some homemade chicken soup.
Chicken soup is great. I can't have the noodles. I got to do the
but
gluten-free
matzo ball
noodles.
soup you can have. I don't think there's
No, I
gluten
think
in
matzah has gluten.
I
No.
don't know.
I think we got to check that one. I think it does. But the one that I've never tried, and I think I need to just so I can see, is gefilte fish. But I don't know if that
No,
has
don't
flour
do
in
it.
it. People say it's
awful.
gross.
It's
It looks disgusting.
The only
Latkes are
people-
amazing. Gefilte looks gross to me.
The only people I've ever seen eat it are just older Jewish people.
Mm.
I don't know why they eat it.
It's kind of like, I feel like our parents' generation is more into organ meat, and you just
Yeah.
can't get me to eat organ meat. It's just not how I roll.
Or tongue.
Yeah, all that stuff.
Yeah.
There's no way. That's like I definitely, when I was younger, my parents were very, very nice in that they would like bring us out as pretty young kids to some nice restaurants. And I definitely remember ordering sweetbreads, not knowing what that was. You know what sweetbreads are?
I don't.
Organ meat.
Oh.
It's like I don't know. Everyone listening is yelling right now what it really is, but it's like, tripe or intestine. It's gross. It's bad stuff. Nothing sweet or bread-like about it is the bottom.
It sounds delicious, but
Yeah,
then when
exactly.
You tell me
No,
what
it sounds like
yeah.
they're gonna bring you out like a piece of like,
So your parents told you how to dry there.
Well, I mean, I know
that.
they just let me order what I wanted, but I definitely remember ordering sweetbreads once at a fancy restaurant my dad took me to and being like, "This is the grossest thing I've ever put in my mouth." So, but a different strokes for different folks.
Yeah.
Some people really like that stuff. Brad, love your show. A friend told me about you in October. See, he passed the buck. And I haven't missed a show since, and I live and work deep behind enemy lines in California. I pass by Adam Schiff's office on Hollywood Boulevard each day on my way to work. While he spends all of his time in Washington worrying about the president, I need to close the air vents in my car from all the bad urine and feces smells that consumes the area within 3 blocks of his office from all the homeless encampments. Ooh, that's rough. He is so deeply out of touch with his own district. They say coronavirus is able to spread through fecal contact, so his district will probably be ground zero. Keep up the good work. Shields high. No, producer Mark is not even a little. He's not a lib, Brad. He's asking a question about you. You're not a lib. That's not fair.
Yeah, I think I left that in the message. I wasn't gonna censor it. But,
yeah, but he's not.
There's a winky face next to that accusation.
Yeah,
so
but
maybe he's just joking.
Yeah, I mean, I think he might be messing with you a little bit.
Yeah.
You're not a lib. Producer Mark is a fair-minded populist for America.
I leave the politics to Buck.
Exactly.
That's what I do.
Yeah, but he's looking out for the folks though. It's like Bill O'Reilly. He's looking out for you. Remember that with Bill O'Reilly?
Yes.
Yeah. Those were the days. I gotta say, I probably back in the day on Fox, I probably watched more O'Reilly Factor than any other show. As I've gotten older, I became more of a Tucker, and I'm on Tucker a lot, so that helps. But probably Tucker is my number one watched show. Brett Baer's show I watch a fair amount too. I tape these, and so I watch them on DVR. But back in the day, man, O'Reilly, when you needed somebody to have on some smarmy lib and get like all like splotchy, red-faced Irish angry man on them, which I can say because that's like half my family. When you needed somebody that was really good at O'Reilly, he was good at that. He was good. Little bit. Tabitha, hey, Buck, quick note on paper straws. You aren't meant to use the same straw the entire time you're drinking. You're supposed to change it out as it gets too wet. Tabitha, come on. What are we? What are we, animals? We're going to change out the straws? Come on.
She's just telling you what you're supposed to do.
No, I know, but I'm saying, come on, no one's really going to do that.
No, nobody's going to do that.
No one's going to do that. Not that I'm an advocate for paper straws, but I do know that's the case. I also wanted to comment on your love for Sir Kensington's mayo. While I agree that it's delicious, their classic version uses sunflower oil, which is a no-go. Why is it a no-go? They did, however, recently come out with one that uses avocado oil, which is thumbs up. Be careful with those trash vegetable oils. Shields high. Well, thank you, Tabitha. Yeah, I mean, look, I think Sir Kensington, I thought, I admit to you when I'm wrong about something. I was wrong about Sir Kensington mayo. I was like, oh, look at them. They've got like a fancy guy who's like on the thing making the new mayo. I was a Hellman's guy because I love mayonnaise is amazing. Producer Mark doesn't like it. That's okay.
Gross.
Mayonnaise is fantastic. But I didn't think that you would really improve on mayo because it was good enough. Sir Kensington mayo is like, it's muy delicioso. It's really good.
I know a great way to improve on mayo.
Yeah, not eat it.
Yeah,
probably.
get rid of it.
Yeah. By the way, you can always take mayo and add your own sriracha sauce to it and make your own sriracha mayo, which is a very, very fun trick for those of you watching at home. Becky, thank you so much for sharing your brother's muffin company. Found them in Southern California. Great way to start my day. The Buck Sexton Show playing and my gluten-free muffin. Well, Becky, that's how I start my day. A gluten-free Susie's muffin. It's SOOZY. It's my older brother's company. They have them in Whole Foods. They have them in Kroger's. They have them in all across the country. And the muffins are amazing. So I eat them all the time. I actually eat one every morning.
Wait, so you start your day by eating a muffin and listening to yourself?
Well, no. I mean, I start my day by eating a muffin and then doing my show myself.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm starting the Buck Sexton Show, as my day too.
Sounded like your head was getting even bigger. You started listening to yourself.
Don't worry, producer Mark. It's also part of his role. So make sure that I don't turn into like MC Hammer back in the day where I have an entourage of 30 following me around. We're going to work up from having a staff of 2 before we worry about
Would
that.
I be part of the entourage, or would I be like?
No, we'd have you carried in a
entourage?
litter too. We'd have like burly fellows carrying
God,
you.
I'll be at the front of the entourage with you.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, good.
That's how we'll do it. That's the show for today, folks. Tomorrow, Ben Weingarten's in for me, but I will be doing my WOR show. And I'll be on Bill Maher tomorrow night, HBO, 10 p.m. Eastern. Team, I need you to have my back. Pass the buck in the meantime. Shields high.